Welcome back, everybody, to Love of Pages. This is Elizabeth, because I'm now remembering to actually introduce myself, for those of you who know me.
Yeah.
I'm learning. And I'm joined with Jessica and Stephen.
I'm tired.
Aren't we all? We all might be a little slap happy from lack of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So we are finishing up Artemis by Andy Weir. It is the final section. So I'm not going to lie. This is going to be a struggle tonight. Mostly because we immediately got off last week and I finished reading the book. Because it had taken all of my effort not to keep reading it before the podcast.
Really?
Yeah, so I finished it that night.
Wow.
I have so many questions for this particular stretch of book that we had and you.
Okay, certainly.
You've said in the past that the technical sections, you're like, okay, no, yeah, and they did the thing, and that's all I needed. Okay, skip forward.
Yeah.
There's a lot of skip forward in this.
There's a fair amount of skip forward. The only thing holding me from skipping forward big chunks was the interpersonal relationships at play.
Okay. Deserved and undeserved.
50-50.
That's fair. Yeah.
I think they're good. By the time you get to the end, they're overplayed.
Yeah.
Did I guess I don't want to dive in too far, but did anyone else think from the way that her dad was talking that he was setting him up to get killed?
Yes.
Like that's all I thought was going to happen.
Convinced he was going to die.
Yeah. Like he was saying like his nice things like, I've always believed in you. Like you did a good job.
I also really hate that she ends up with the Hungarian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It bothers me.
It didn't make sense. Except okay.
Like you kind of got that he might have had feelings for her, but like none of it reciprocated, it seemed, at all. And then just to do it like in the last, not even the last third, because
it was like the
last
yeah.
You're like, oh, she is kind of attracted to him. Oh, okay. Like,
and to me, it was the destruction of, because you don't see it very often where you have male and female characters truly just in a friendship.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good, this one has not only just one, but two.
Mm-hmm.
Two, including one with somebody who is also attracted to women.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
Because you can kind of write off Dale because, like, he's gay. Like, that we see all the time. But, like, to have male-female friendship between both of whom who are heterosexual, you don't see, and now you've ruined it. Because now you've added the romantic component to it. And that's just not fair, A. And
not
B,
needed.
I hate the power dynamic of the super experienced dater and the very underexperienced dater. And like, yeah, we'll match up and I'll teach you the ways. Like, I hate it when it's the male who's really experienced and the nerdy female and vice versa. I'm like, that's not typical. And stop trying to make it typical.
Yeah. It's an odd one. I mean, as far as the like one person who didn't date one person who dated a whole lot, I speak from one of those relationships. So I can't do anything for that one. But like there's a lot in here that's very forced, and it feels like a lot of the character interactions are relying on, I don't know, like old media portrayal of people.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess I'm not thinking so much as like dating versus not dating, but like very sexually free versus very sexually inexperienced.
I got that one. Yeah, neither of us is sexually free.
But like, because you don't have somebody who just, oh, I'll sleep with anybody, anything that walks, and somebody who's like, well, I don't sleep with people. Like, those sex drives don't tend to work.
So a pansexual can't date an asexual?
It would take a lot.
It would take
someone out there. We're not accosting your relationship out there. If this is you,
no. If
we respect the hurdles that you have conquered.
I would say it's not necessarily that it doesn't exist. It does exist, and there are relationships that can work that way because people do mature, or they don't change for people, but sometimes you do change for people. Like if you really love them, like. But it's more that it's really overplayed, at least in like romance in general books. It's highly overplayed in romance geared towards women now. 50 Shades of Grey is like that. Twilight is basically like that. Like just there's so much of it. And it's usually where the male is the most experienced. But like there is this wave of just like immortal men with these these immature young girls. It's just a wave, and it's just a trope that it's kind of like we're done with it. Even when it's flip-flopped, even when it's the girl that's more sexually mature than the guy, it's
there's a lot to like in this book. I want to be clear.
Yes.
However, the character and the inter-character relationships are not one of those things.
No.
Yeah. No, and Jessica, thank you for making my point much clearer for me, because that is what I was trying to get at. Is it's so overplayed and it drives me crazy.
Yes. Like I think the last 4 books I've read have been actually kind of along that, like especially in the young adult issue too. And it's like that's not necessarily how a healthy relationship starts though, is to have somebody that's so experienced wanting somebody that has 0 experience. Like that's not the best example of how real relationships work.
But I should ask, do we have a cocktail today?
We do.
Okay.
So
show yours first.
Jessica found me an offer I couldn't refuse, so I ended up with a martini glass.
A
single martini glass.
That's all you needed. That is all you needed.
Except, and so this was very particular because Jessica's like, no, it won't look right if you do my cocktail in a different glass. And I'm like, okay. Except then I apparently didn't read the instructions for the cocktail correctly, so I still screwed it up. So it's fine.
Did you not read them correctly, or did you just never read them and just looked at the ingredients?
I never read them because I thought all she sent me were the ingredients, because who sends the ingredients after the directions? Like
I don't think I intentionally did that. I think it just sent that way. Like because I think I sent them like one right after the other. And I don't.
Is this a snowball martini?
No, this is what it's supposed to look like. Let me see if I can get the glare off.
That's a solid. That's not a drink.
Yeah, this is. I mean, it's a solid hunk of basically a perfect 1-to-1 ratio of coconut cream and ice, and that's how you make the moon. And then you literally just pour pretty much cold vodka, just an ounce of cold vodka. And you plop the moon in, and then it calls for blackberries, but I did blueberries as the garnish. Oh, and there's some sugar there. So it's just straight vodka with melty coconut cream in it.
Are you meant to consume the coconut cream and whatnot part? Okay.
It eventually will melt.
Yeah, it eventually will melt. It's very it kind of feels like soft served ice cream right now. It's like a kind of harder version of soft serve ice cream.
And it's called a full moon martini.
Yes.
Now, what I did, getting just the instructions and a picture.
For the audio listeners, there's...
Go ahead.
Elizabeth, I want you to describe what Jess's looks like, and then describe what yours looks like for the people who are just listening.
Okay, so Jessica's looks like a solid orb with this tiny bit of liquid rimming the bottom of the glass, just kind of like the orb is set in almost a fog. Mine looks like I'm drinking milk out of a martini glass with an ice cube in it.
It's perfect description. Concise, to the point.
So what I did,
Yes.
listeners, was I made a spherical ice cube. Just a straight spherical ice cube. And then to make the drink, I combined a half a cup of coconut cream and half a cup of water and 1 ounce of vodka.
At the
Because
same
those
time,
are the proportions. And I didn't have berries, so I didn't garnish with any berries.
I think yours sounds like the more drinkable one.
It's kind of.
There's only one problem. I don't actually like coconut flavor.
Hey,
all.
I want to go ahead
If
and
you told me that, I could have figured out some way to do this.
I want to shout out another podcast on the Geek Elite Media Network right now. Apparently, according to Daniel from Imagine If is the one that he does with him, right? Or I think it's the one.
No, the Daniel and Mitch. It's
the televised heroics.
Yeah.
Yeah, televised heroics. The most recent episode as of recording. They are talking about, I think it's The Boys season 2 episode 3 is the one that they just talked about. In there, Daniel says that Mounds are the better are the worst candy between Mounds and Almond Joy. And the reason that he said for this was that Almond Joy, like Mitch tried to poke at this to figure out why. Mitch is like, oh, is it because of the almond? Does that make it that much better? And he goes, no, because in Mounds, Mounds, they have all that coconut in them. And Mitch tried to delve further in this and find out what exactly he meant. Because for anyone who doesn't know, for some reason, they're the same candy. One has dark chocolate on the outside and no almond. The other one has the milk chocolate and an almond. And then Daniel said, I guess I just can't taste the coconut in an Almond Joy.
How? That's why I don't eat either.
I'm entirely at a loss. So go ahead and tweet at Daniel Barroso on Twitter. I don't know what his Twitter handle is, but find him and tell him your feelings. Anyway.
You can also just tweet at Geek Elite Media and we'll make sure Daniel gets it.
But anyway, back to the show.
But yeah, so I don't actually like coconut. So I now have more coconut flavor than is intended. I was also trying to figure out how this was all supposed to fit in a martini glass, because it does not.
Before we started recording, she showed me her glass and I was like, wow, did your ice melt that much? I was like, what happened?
And I'm like, no, it's still in there. There's just a lot of liquid. Why is there so much liquid?
I like this though. You know, both of your guys' drinks are valid drinks, and no one should try to talk negatively about them. They're your drinks.
You really should do this cocktail the right way. It looks far more appetizing.
Okay. All right. I don't know how to drink this without the...
And you might actually consume alcohol, because, I mean, at this point, I have maybe 1/3 of an ounce of alcohol in this entire glass.
Did it float to the... No, you know... No.
I only have about 1/3 of the whole amount of liquid that I created.
I see.
Therefore, I probably only have about 1/3 of the full 1 ounce of vodka.
So your martini glass today, your cocktail, is like getting a shake at a diner.
Yes.
You have like the extra on the side.
I do. I have the extra in the tumbler downstairs.
So in this book, did you guys think this was where the book was going to end, or did you think that there would be something more in the plot?
I
think there was time to add
better success.
Okay.
I didn't think there was
something to go wrong. I did not expect it to go wrong like this, and I did not expect the resolution to cost so much.
Everything.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything.
Yeah. So for anyone who for some reason is watching this podcast while having not read the book, at the end of the book, she goes to try to basically mop up and finish off this refinery place to make good on her contract with T-Dog. And it doesn't go great.
Let's walk the last third. Let's walk through the last third.
Okay.
Okay.
Where we left off is she has approached Lena, T-Dog's daughter, and basically said, we need to finish the job because the Brazilians cannot keep the refinery.
Mhm.
We have to get rid of the smelter. You have to take over. That's the only option to save Artemis. Because otherwise the Brazilians will come and we will just become an organized syndicate location. So we open, but we don't have her plan. So we open with Billy, the owner of Hartnell's, the bar,
Mhm.
closing the bar so that Jazz can host her meeting.
Yep.
And we slowly get introduced to who all is taking part. So the first to show up is Dale, who is her ex-best friend.
An ex-best friend because he stole her boyfriend away.
But also, importantly, an EVA master. Part of the game.
A very skilled one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then her father shows up. Then Lena. And finally, the Hungarian. What's wrong, Jessica?
No, it's just there's no way to drink this without your nose like just taking a chunk out of the moon.
Well, there is if you royally mess it up and create a much smaller moon compared to drink.
It is a very adorable party drink. Not a drink I would choose to drink on film.
It's like, oops, my nose. It's Svoboda.
Svoboda. I'm gonna try because he's mad. He's actually a really cool character.
They say they call him Svobo. If that helps.
Svobo.
Yeah.
Svoboda.
Not much.
Svoboda.
But okay.
Yeah, I agree. It's
Anyway.
a bad nickname.
So she then walks them through, and then finally, is it Bob Lewis? Bob Lewis, who manages the port and is also an EVA master.
Mm-hmm.
And an ex-Marine.
It
It was said multiple times.
Yeah.
It's important.
So he basically walks them. She basically starts with forcing them to agree to work with her, playing on various pressure points.
Mm-hmm.
Bob's being an ex-Marine. She talks about Forgotten Country. Dale basically makes an agreement like, okay, if I do this for you, slate's clean. Like you no longer get to hold the fact that I stole your boyfriend over my head. Like you just slate's clean. Lena's on board because she's good to go. And Dad, she obviously uses the pressure point of being daughter. And
Svoboda.
Svoboda.
Svoboda just wants to do it because science. And
And jazz.
Yeah. You did actual jazz hands when you said it that time, so now I'm confused.
It could also be jazz. There's jazz in space. We all know that.
So we don't get a detailed description of exactly what's going to happen until it does happen, which is seems pretty standard for this author.
Yeah.
You do get a good foreshadowing of, oh, well, in that building near the smelter, there is this chemical, and this chemical. Oh, well, is that bad? No, it should be fine.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a note in the margin. That's bad.
Well, and Svoboda was like, I don't like this. This really concerns me.
I don't know why, but
I don't know why, but it really bothers me. And I'm like, maybe somebody should listen to the actual scientist, like
Yeah.
the person who's actually qualified to know what's going on.
it's okay for scientists to forget their chemical formulas. Like, it happens. We can't memorize all of them. Like, just like when they're like, something's wrong, just pay attention and try to figure out why something is wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So the first step is Bob donates his air shelter
To be used as a tunnel.
to be used as part of the tunnel. And there needs to be a cut and additional weld attached to it, which Jazz has her dad do, as he's the best. And it takes him 6 times as long to do it, which she equates to, now you know how much my dad cares about me, 6 times as much as any other job. So,
Yep, sounds about right for dads that actually do love their daughters.
like this tracks. Okay.
Yeah.
From there, Svoboda and her dad will be watching via cameras. Bob Lewis will be at the port, keeping their return entrance intact.
Mhm.
Dale and Jazz borrow Bob's, what I picture as a 4-wheeler.
Rover.
Like the rover,
Yeah.
Lunar rover.
It's a lunar rover, yeah.
It's a rover. It's a spoofed up 4-wheeler, so it's a rover. With all the bells and whistles.
NASA, you just made a spoofed up 4-wheeler. That's all you did.
Now, I'm gonna have NASA scientists on my doorstep being like, "What?
Come on, man.
You want to pick a fight? Let's go. Let's go."
No, honestly, you can. There's a better one for this. They spent so much money trying to make a pen that worked in space, and then someone just went pencil.
Well, except
Fire hazard.
Yeah, no, graphite bad. But if you just like harden it, great. But like it was just like pencil.
Well, no, except that was the problem. So the Russians did use pencils, but they had fire. They actually ended up with explosion because of the graphite, which is why we have the special pen.
Yeah, because like it doesn't take a lot because everything is. I mean, it kind of sort of talks about it in Artemis because everything is pretty much artificial oxygen. That's pretty much like a perfect ratio of oxygen. Fire can happen like that. Like it's just you don't want anything with any sort of fire hazard at all. And graphite is that good that it's so small too when it comes apart that you don't even notice that it's getting in stuff that's hot, and then it sparks. So. I'm sorry, NASA was right. They needed to work their ass off making that happen.
What would NASA do?
Because they lost a lot of money when...
What NASA would do would be listen to the scientists and not go blow up a smelter that had additional chemicals that they hadn't worked out what would happen. Or they'd send monkeys to do it, one or the other.
Either one.
In any case. So... Jazz and Dale cruising on the rover over to the smelter. And they're timing it just as the shift change, which we learn later why.
Yeah.
But they've timed it for the shift change. So they then extend the same. Now we learn why we had the full conversation. Sorry, I have in my hands. The full conversation about the fire at the glass factory and what they did, because they take that same tube and make a vacuum from the rover to the air pod, which Jazz then attaches via welding to the outside of the smelter. The bubble.
Yeah, the little bubble that the smelter's in.
Yep. And she then has to make 2 additional cuts into the wall. And she runs into some issue when she cuts through the outer because the gravel that's inside pours out, gets gunk all in her eyes and in her face. She manages to fix that. And then she gets the inner layer cut.
She also gets static shock quite a few times too, because there's zero humidity in that.
That was a portion where I didn't like the character writing. She says like our impromptu wet t-shirt contest.
Yeah.
Like, why?
But in any case, so she manages to set off the alarm right on time, just as the shift change is occurring and the train is docked at the smelter's bubble.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody, or what she thinks is everybody, evacuates onto the train at the sound of the alarm.
Which is just excellent, because I can tell you just from experience too that if there's any alarm whatsoever, people will always go to the exit that they came in at instead of the nearest fire exit.
Mm-hmm.
They could be like literally an aisle away from the fire exit and they will walk across the freaking store to get to the main exit. Like,
yep,
I love people and how they work. Just know where your fire exits are always.
This has been Fire Safety 101 with Jessica. So she then gets into the smelter's bubble and begins the process of heating up the smelter to collapse and combustion. As she is finalizing what's going on, she realizes that Sanchez, who is the head scientist of the smelter, up to her eyeballs in Brazilian cartels, is still inside.
Because she's going to fix it.
Yeah.
It's like, this doesn't make any sense. What's going on?
Like, what? No, it's going to go. No, I made it not to go. No, I literally welded a box over it. Like, it's going to blow.
she says that, and then she says, I'll fix it.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, you'll
and they're like, look at it.
Yeah.
Look at it. Oh, we got to go.
And then she goes, we got to go. And so they rush back out. They manage to get back in the rover, but they cannot get the tube detached fast enough. Mm-hmm. So then they attempt this ridiculous launch over a sharp rock, hoping to cut the, hoping to cut the tube.
Yeah.
And so then the explosion happens, which is felt underground, which both Jazz and Sanchez are like, yeah, no, that's real bad.
Loud. That's bad.
Yeah, that is really loud because we're in a vacuum. So like that's really loud.
Yeah.
And then they come to find out. So they're on their way back. Sanchez is pissed because they just blew up her smelter. Like, what the hell?
I wish I had more Sanchez, though. I will say that. I was really enjoying Sanchez.
Was the character written well in just the book? Because I feel like Rosario Dawson in the audiobook made that character not great. Not great.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I liked how she basically is like a different version of Jazz. Like, she's like a counterpoint of Jazz, but like, I don't know why. It's like, you blew up my smelter, just like, I did hate though the stupid like, what was it, the line, like, I'm too gay to enjoy this cat fight, like,
oh yeah.
That was obnoxious.
I was like,
it was bookmarked by good lines in other parts right before that. Like after that part, she says like, your suit's too small, don't stretch my suit, I'll shit in your suit.
Just like, I think it was that line where I was like, I kind of like this song, just be like, I don't give a shit about you.
Well, and like Sanchez is well written as not all bad guys are evil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because she still very clearly cares about her workers. She still very clearly cares about the people who are her neighbors on Artemis. Mm-hmm. Even though she definitely is part of the problem and would become an even bigger part of the problem if given the opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There is still a sense of community for her that she definitely adheres to.
Yeah.
So they are driving back to the pickup point to get in with Bob.
Why is everybody passed out?
And the train is stuck. And they finally can't get a hold of anybody. She can't get a hold of her dad. She can't get a hold of the Hungarian.
Yep.
Spadobo.
Yes, man.
She couldn't get a hold of Boba.
She couldn't get a hold of Boba. Boba.
There we go.
And so they peek above the windows in the train, and everybody is passed out. And at first, they think they're dead.
Yeah, one person had like a puddle of vomit next to them.
Yeah. And finally, they recognize that, nope, they're still breathing. They're all just knocked out.
Yeah.
And so then it becomes a calculation of, oh God, what just happened? And the conclusion, thanks to Sanchez actually being a scientist, because I'm pretty sure if it was just Jazz and Dale, everybody'd be dead. Like,
Yeah,
pretty much.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, conclusion is you just chloroformed an entire city of people.
Yeah. A plus B equals chloroform.
Yep.
And the conclusion is the extra chemicals in the smelter created chloroform. And Jazz's weld of the air...
the tunnel thing, the improvised tunnel.
Thing. Yeah. It was
because
too strong.
Jazz welded it so well, the explosion had nowhere else to go but through the oxygen lines back to Artemis.
Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy.
Properly vent your explosions.
And Artemis apparently did not have fail-safes or alarms for chloroform.
Because who thinks? And anytime you think of chloroform, you just think, yeah, when someone's just a rag to your face, that's all you think. You don't think, it's an actual gas.
So then they determine they need to get to the main life supply terminal to get the chloroform removed and new oxygen pumped in before everybody dies. And Sanchez basically says, we got about an hour. Like, that's the max.
Well, like, we had an hour.
We had an hour. Mm-hmm. We had an hour from the point. And so Jazz gets selected to go in to try and get this handled. And when she first goes in, she almost chloroforms herself.
Yeah, and successfully does it too.
Yeah.
The other two.
And she then gets fully in, gets a mask on, and heads for Andy, the police officer. Andy, right?
No.
No.
The police officer. That's fine.
Police officer. Jessica, look up the name while I'm talking. I should have done another character chart. So she goes to the police officer because she needs his gizmodo. He can get into anywhere. So she figures this gives him the key.
Rudy.
Good Canadian name. Okay. She needs Rudy's gizmodo. She goes in and she immediately knows that something's off, but she's not sure what. And then all of a sudden, Lefty comes out of nowhere and tries to kill her with a pipe.
Yeah.
It's a lead pipe in the conservatory.
I was going to say it was a leap in logic. Or but
there you go. So she fights with Lefty and she gets the better of him because moon gravity. And manages to chloroform him. And she then handcuffs him and debates killing him, decides not to, moves on. So she then gets to the main life support terminal, and she doesn't know what anything says because it's all in, I think, Vietnamese.
Something like that. It's something not English, but
she can tell based on the dials and where everybody was reaching when they passed out.
She said it was like in alphabetical order of some sort?
Something like that. So she starts turning knobs and she releases the oxygen. There's just one problem. life support didn't have reserve oxygen, or at least not a sufficient amount to flush the system.
Yeah,
Which,
not the whole
it's
damn
really
thing.
just bad planning in general. You should always have enough to flush the system.
At this point in the book, I was like, okay, we have our fix. Let's just go straight to the oxygen that they had stored.
Yeah.
Like for Lena and her dad. Like that's the fix. That's the fix. But they try other things first for some reason.
Yeah. So she then needs to exit because she determines we need to go to Lena's stockpile. T-Dog's stockpile of oxygen.
Yep.
So she grabs one of the hamster balls and gets herself into a hamster ball
Mm-hmm.
and meets Dale and Sanchez over by where the air tanks are.
Yep.
And she deflates the ball enough that she can grab onto the little handholds and kind of like roll herself over to where they are. And she tries to turn the levers to release the oxygen, but she can't.
Yeah, her and Dale try to, and
Dale gives her the shot, and he can't. And then she realizes that they need leverage. And she realizes they're counting down. They've got, minutes left. They're counting down. And she realizes that she still has the lead pipe that Lefty tried to murder her with. And that can be the leverage. So she sacrifices herself and punctures the hamster ball,
Mhm.
and everything goes black. She then wakes up in the hospital bed to a very grumpy doctor.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't necessarily just go black. She actually does kind of describe what happens to her in a manner in which one of the real problems with having first-person point of view is that you should not be able to describe this when you're actually going through it. But
Absolutely.
She basically got severe radiation poisoning and just burns on her exposed skin, and then with the vacuum pressure, her eyes kind of started to melt. Like if you ever saw Total Recall, it's like very
Like,
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, she started doing that, but at like a lot lower scale. That was very ridiculous. But still love that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. That was very ridiculous.
But so Jazz wakes up, and Rudy kind of fills her in and kind of explains why Doctor is pissed because she chloroformed the entire city, and that's very harmful, and how dare you do this? And Rudy tries to get her to basically implicate everybody else, and she just refuses to.
Even though Rudy's like, you mean the Bob's Rover that you were using? You mean Dale who was physically with you?
It's like, nope, all coincidence.
All coincidence. All sheer coincidence.
I don't know. What you talking about, dude?
So, come to find out, Dale had basically thrown her over the bubble that they'd come over, and Sanchez caught her and dragged her into the rover in just the nick of time to keep her from actually dying.
Sanchez, and that's the last you hear from Sanchez, and I was very upset because
I mean, last you hear from her, but then Lena says she's going to keep her on.
Yeah, that's true. But still, I kind of wanted one more scene between Jazz and Sanchez. Just one more, like, I don't want you to die, but I still fucking hate you. Like, just one.
When the movie happens, they'll be like in the bar together or something at the end. Yeah. I guarantee you.
Like just that.
There will definitely be something.
Yeah.
So then Jazz sees her dad, and she sees Swoboda. I don't know.
Swoboda.
And Swoboda wants to give her a hug, and he's so excited, and he's thrilled about what, like, I got chloroformed. He apparently really gets excited about things. And then
I don't blame him, because I got really excited when I had my first surgery ever and I was going to go under anesthesia. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go under anesthesia. Like, I'm going to try to stay up. Like, I was like trying to remember how it felt, because I was like, I'm going to be able to write about this later.
And it turns out there's a reason it's like 4 lines in every book.
I know, it's true. You're like, whoa. I literally woke up and was like, whoa, I'm okay. Like, this was great.
Having been somebody who did not properly fully go under, not a pleasant experience.
Oh, no.
Not a pleasant experience. But in any case. So she refuses to implicate anybody, and she heads up to the administrator once she's mostly recovered. And the administrator lets her know, we're going to deport you to Saudi Arabia with no further criminal charges. And she's like, no, you're not.
Yeah, but you won't.
But you won't. Here's my signed confession. You're going to keep it in your drawer. Because you'll notice that we don't have any hard drugs. We don't have any guns.
Other than yours.
We don't have anything extremely flammable. Like we've got contraband, but nothing ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
We have none of those things. You want to know why we have none of those things? Because I run the crime syndicate here, and I keep it very clean. And the administrator eventually reneges and says, all right, fine, you win, but if anybody beats you out, I'm holding you personally responsible. So, like, you better keep a tight lid on these things. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to take the rest of the money from you. Because Jazz had spent the 426,000 slugs.
Whatever that number was.
Papa money.
The Papa money to get Dad his new lab. And she still had a little over $500,000. I assume she paid Bob Lewis back, but who knows? And the administrator says, no, well, I have to take the rest of that from you because I have to be able to show investors that we take crime seriously around here.
It wasn't quite the rest of it because I think she still said she ended up more than what she started with in the beginning. So it was she
had like $5?
No, I think
instead
it was
of
like
2?
No, because she had like 20,000 in the beginning. So I think she ended up with like 30,000. I think when I was looking at it, I was like, she's still left over with like about 30,000.
Yeah.
Which was more than she had in the beginning because she had 20-something thousand, I think, or maybe even less than that. I could go back and figure it out.
In any case, the administrator took most of the money under the, restitution standard. And then Jazz comes to find out that Lena has kept Sanchez on to rebuild the smelter. And Jazz is furious. You can't trust her. She's up to her eyeballs in the cartel. And Lena goes, I don't trust her. I need her. She's the only one who can do the job. So I'm going to keep her on. That doesn't mean I trust her. That's an entirely different question.
Honestly, though, I get why she has an issue with her staying around. But at the end of the day, basically, she just kind of facilitated removing all of the issues from Sanchez as a character.
Yeah.
Because now she's not beholden to the other... she's not beholden to the cartel at all. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, seems good. I don't know.
I think it's probably a good deal for Sanchez.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Jazz is probably holding onto a grudge because, the cartel did try to kill her twice.
It's true.
Yeah. Okay, so I did the calculations. She has $36,000 left.
So she's got about $10,000 more, 10,000 more slugs than she started with.
Yeah, pretty much. So she's out even, and she's got a company to invest in. So yeah, she is going to be rich.
Yeah. But the administrator calculated for that because she says if you choose to retire, still going to hold you accountable. So no retiring.
Yeah,
no retiring for you.
I don't feel like Jazz is the person to retire anyway. I feel like she'll always do smuggling, like just.
Mm-hmm.
And then the administrator goes into this discussion, which is very accurate. She goes into a description of economics that I was like, this is very accurate, but this is also why people hate economists. Because it's a very bleak, well, yes, now we are about to have a boom. And then next will come welfare reforms and statutory regulations and safety nets and taxes.
Mhm.
And then we'll collapse and we'll break into smaller economies.
Yeah.
And then we'll boom, and then we'll
do
it all over again.
We'll do it all over again. And I'm like, yes, that's how the economic life cycle works. Like that's how it happens. But I'm also like, and it's also why people hate economists.
Because that is how it works. It just also, when you explain it that way, it's sort of like making you not think, oh yeah, but people's livelihoods is connected to the economy. Like,
sorry?
There's no perfect economy. This is what happens. There you go.
So real quick, final thoughts, impressions. How'd we like it? Would we recommend it?
Go ahead. If you liked The Martian, I think read it. If you know anything about The Martian and you're put off by something in The Martian, don't read it.
Yeah, pretty much. If you, yeah, it's just it's a good mix of learning things with some entertainment, which is why I liked The Martian, because I learned a lot of things. I think with The Martian, like the one difference that I wish I had was The Martian had literally like you'd all of a sudden learn how something was being built like 5 years ago or something, or 10 years ago, and you're like, why am I learning how this one thing was being built? And then it comes into play, and you don't have that in here. Because that's what I thought was unique about The Martian, was it went through like, this is how this one part of the one canopy on the Martian camp was made. But they didn't notice this one little flaw. And then the next chapter, you're like, boom, the flaw.
I think we still got that kind of thing, but it was traded for like the traditional kind of idea for that, with like bad foreshadowing. Like the whole time we knew pretty much every single story beat, except for the ones that are just not really earned, like Svoboda actually becoming like boyfriend.
Okay, yeah, again,
Mr. Jazz Bashara.
Jazz says that she likes Svoboda as more.
Yeah, Svoboda, when he just gets all excited and he kisses her on the cheek or something, and she's like, "Come at me, boo!" and just
oh.
But with having read this, do you guys think that you would choose to go and watch the movie whenever it ends up on Netflix? Because none of us are going to theaters.
Yes,
probably.
I don't know if I would.
I actually would, because I feel like if it does, well, it kind of depends. Like, I feel like it'd be a good like one season show. Like, I feel like if you had time to really explore the side characters a lot more, it would actually make a good story and a good show. Jazz being her jazzy self. I just would say.
What word were you going to say first?
I wasn't. It's just she's just Jazz being her. I don't even know how to. It's just she's Jazz being her girl written by a male. That's just like just very hard strung girl written by a male. Not that a male cannot write women, but it's just this one felt like that's a guy writing.
This one is proof that it's in the bad column.
Yeah, I feel like just have a female, like a really strong female writer on the screen team, like just or like a lot of female writers. You know, I know there's more than one female writer. You can put more than one on a show. Like just I feel like it would need that for Jazz, and I feel like this story is great enough that I would want to see it as a show. Like I really would want to see the Artemis moon colony. And especially with every, and I even want to learn more about how it works in Kenya. With, like, I would like to see what's his face, Kevlon, something like that.
Kevin?
No, I don't think it was Kevin. It had an L in it. Because I was what is that name?
I don't know what it is.
Kelvin.
That's the one. I didn't know what his name was, but I could confirm that it was not Kevlar.
No, I knew it wasn't Kevlar. But I knew it was kind of a sciencey name, and it was a K and an L, whatever, and a V, and just all those words. We are all very tired.
It's true. No, I read that.
So, in any case, I'm gonna segue. Speaking of books turned into movies, I'm gonna segue to my next pick.
Ooh.
Note. So here's my little blurb. So we are going across the pond and joining up with secret agent James Bond for Moonraker.
It's my Moonraker.
Boo-doo-boo.
This ended up with different covers of Moonraker.
Yeah, this is the one that I chose to put in the group chat. It's the German cover.
Yep.
Well, you must have bought the last copy of that one on Amazon, by the way, because to have that cover, it was like a 2-week wait.
Yeah. So this one is a good one to jump into because it focuses very heavily on the 1950s fears of the Cold War, nuclear annihilation, Soviet communism, attacks by rockets, reemergence of Nazism. It's got all of those fun things that a James Bond book has.
The greatest hits.
It's the greatest hits of the Cold War issues. So, and we will be wrapping this up the same week that the next 007 movie comes out on November 20th. So, in 3 weeks from the release of the next when we start this book.
Yeah. Interesting. I did not know about that connection to when we would be finishing it. Well played.
Thank you. Sometimes there's a reasoning to my madness. There's a method to my madness. Plus, I really thought that it might be fun to break out of the spy mystery genre, action genre. So, and my other thought was Ken Follett's Pillars of the Earth, which is about that thick.
It's gonna be a lot of episodes.
Yeah, that's the whole show. That's a season of a show.
So instead, I just bought the prequel for myself, and I'm not gonna necessarily make you guys read Pillars of the Earth just yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say a definitely caveat there.
I'll follow Pillars of the Earth with Dune.
We have the next 4 years of podcast. Awesome, thank you. Decided. Fantastic. Thank you for joining us in this planning meeting.
But so that's my 30-second pitch. Join us when we get back in 2 weeks for Moonraker. James Bond by Ian Fleming.
Awesome. I'm excited. This will be my first James Bond book ever.
It's my first book ever too. For James Bond.
Yeah, not all of them.
Ever, like, obviously. But.
No, and I have not read Moonraker.
Interesting.
I read Dr. No, but I did not read Moonraker. So
okay. We'll see how this goes. I'm hoping this is better. Dr. No was not a great read for me, but I've been told this is recommended highly on the list in terms of the better James Bond books.
Okay.
So,
okay.
We'll see. Come join us on this adventure. But until next time, Jessica, where can people find you?
You can find me as J.M. Bailey Writes on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, if it's still there. And and don't forget to check out our Love of Pages Instagram as Love of Pages.
All right. And Stephen, where can people find you?
You can find me on my website, www.peppermintgentleman.com. If you want to find me on social media, it has links on the bottom. But look at the pictures first.
You can find me with the rest of Geek Elite Media at geekelitemedia.com, our Facebook page /Geek Elite Media. Until next time, this is The Love of Pages, reminding you to keep turning those pages and always remember to
geek out!
I love the excitement, Stephen.